What a glorious day. It's just beautiful, basking in the joy of last night, getting to ring in this feast day in a very particular way. And this year, I'm always trying to look for something new because there's always more. And this year, I stumbled upon the Flower World Prophecy, which I wanted to share with you. There's a great book on this called Guadalupe and the Flower World Prophecy. And so if you want to know all the details, it's in that book. But it begins with this idea to say there was a real problem in Mesoamerica before Our Lady comes. And that problem is that, they're not open to new ideas. And the reason they're not open to new ideas is because their language prohibits it. They have a concept of truth. Their concept of truth is that something is rooted. That's their word for truth, is rooted. So it's the idea that our memory forms our identity. And so the fact is, if something is not rooted in our experience, then therefore it is false, because their word for false is something new or unrooted. So this was the issue when the Franciscans were coming after the conquistadors. They were trying to talk about a Jesus that had nothing to do with their history. And so they listened to it, but they said, you know what, that's nice, we're not interested. Because it's not related to our history. Therefore, it's a new idea. Therefore, categorically, it is false. And of course, they saw a bunch of counterexamples of Christian living in the conquistadors' lives. So really, you see, before Our Lady of Guadalupe comes, the bishop is writing to the king of Spain, telling him, we are failing here, and in fact, we're in danger of losing everything. Unless there's a miraculous intervention, we're cooked, right? Thanks be to God that prayer was heard. Amen? Okay. But we see this is a teaching of the church, is that even in pagan situations, even in situations that are very lost, there are seeds of the gospel. There are preparations for the gospel that God plants in every human heart and in every culture, that we just have to know what they are. And if we know what they are, the gospel speaks to every person and to every culture in every time. And this is what happened. There's an anthropologist in 1992, her name was Jane Hill, and she started to do an examination of Aztec and Mesoamerican flower songs. She noticed that there's all this music, because it's a very musical culture, it's a very poetic culture, an oral culture. They don't have a lot of written things, they have a lot of oral traditions, and they noticed there was a lot of songs, and they sang about a place called the Flower World. And in fact, this goes all the way back to 1500 BC, where the Olmec culture is kind of the mother culture of all the native tribes in the North and South America, right? So the Olmec tribe is kind of the mother tribe of all of them. And these songs go all the way back to there, and they realized all these cultures, all the way back to the Olmec tribe, they started talking about this place called Flower World. And what was Flower World? Flower World was their heaven. Basically, it was a place of light and music. The rocks were singing, the trees, the birds, everything was radiant with light and with energy and color. There's lots of colors of all kinds. The birds, they were just illuminated and singing, and so all this music, and it was all run by one God, the God of near and far. The God of near and far, okay? And the song, of all these song collections, the Franciscans started writing down their songs and putting them into a collection. And the first song, the most important and popular one, is called The Origin of the Songs, or the Song of Songs, all right? The origin of the songs, and it's a prophecy. And it begins like this. There is a musician who starts to sing, saying, who will take me to the flower world so I can get the flowers of truth, to bring them down to give joy to the princes of this world? I will ask the birds, I will ask the hummingbird, I will ask the mockingjay, I will ask these other birds to lead me to where the flowers of truth are, so I may bring them back in my tilma to bring joy to the princes of this world. And so he goes and he searches, and eventually finds a golden hummingbird. And the golden hummingbird says, I will show you where the flowers of truth are. And the bird leads him into a mountain. And in this mountain cave, there are all these shining, glittering flowers that are covered in dew, sparkling like emeralds and other jewels. And he's so delighted. And the bird says to him, you may take and cut whatever flowers you wish, and bring them to the princes of the earth and bring them joy. And so he collects the flowers, he puts them in his tilma, and he's leaving the cave overjoyed that he has the flowers of truth, and he's going to bring them to the world. And then the song changes. He says, but who am I that I could ever go to the flower world? I who am full of sin, I am not a noble, I'm nobody. Who will be found worthy to enter the flower world, to bring back the flowers of truth? Only the God of near and far can make one worthy to enter the flower world. And it ends with him weeping, that he didn't actually, it was a dream. He didn't actually go to the flower world, but he wished to go there and hoped that he could, but realized he's not worthy. We need someone who is worthy to go to the flower world to bring us back the flowers of truth. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds really familiar. And indeed, the Nawa language in which this poem was written, you now have the Nikan Mapua, which is the story of Juan Diego encountering Our Lady of Guadalupe in the Nawa language, and it sounds like this song lines up perfectly. Juan Diego is walking along and he hears music, and he looks around and he sees glittering, sparkling, he sees flowers and birds and color and light, and he says, where am I? Am I worthy to be experiencing what I'm experiencing? Am I in the flower world spoken of by my ancestors? See, we miss this because we don't even know what's going on here, but that's what he says, literally. Am I in the flower world spoken of by my ancestors, the land of corn, the land of life, the land of light? Am I in this place? And he follows the source of the music up the mountain to then he meet Our Lady, right? And indeed, this was a mountain on which Tonantzin, a mother goddess, was worshipped, right? But this mother goddess was was not pleasant, right? We see the mother goddess is actually a decapitated image who has snakes coming out of her. So it's a very evil kind of image. He goes up the mountain. He doesn't meet Tonantzin. He meets Our Lady, who is a human woman, but radiant and glowing, the golden hummingbird, right, if you will. And she calls to him by name, says, my dearest Juan Diego, I am the Virgin Mother of the God of near and far, the one true God, the one rooted God. And I want a chapel built here, right? Now, we back up a little bit and we see one of the other features of the story, and this is what continues throughout Aztec and other Mesoamerican cultures, is the flower world had an access point, and that access point was symbolized by the four-petaled flower, which had the four cardinal directions, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the central pillar that was the Z-axis. So if you have like a grid, X, Y, and then the Z is a 3D up and down kind of axis, okay? So the idea is that this was the distance horizontally, and then the central pillar was the place of connection with the flower world. So it's a mystical portal that would lead you to the flower world. And you see the four-petaled flower everywhere. If you look at any Aztec art, you look at any of their bas-reliefs, you look at any of the things, you'll see the four-petaled flower over important places that lead to God, right? Because that was the symbol of the order of the universe and the portal that led to the flower world, okay? This was identified in 92, that this flower was really important, and then archaeologists started to say, you know what, actually there's something to this, and they started to reinterpret all of the archaeological evidence they saw of all the temples in Mexico. They started to realize a lot of them, they thought they were tombs underneath the excavations, and they realized, no, they're not tombs. These are actually made, they're four chambers, north, south, east, west, with a central room connecting all of them. They're the flower. You go into the mountain to find the flowers of truth. See? Now this got distorted over time, and they realized, how do we become worthy to enter that portal to go to the flower world? A lot of human sacrifice. They realized blood atonement was necessary, but that got distorted, and of course became very violent and destructive. And indeed, they did what they called flower wars to collect people. They weren't fighting about anything, they just needed people to sacrifice, right? You see how distorted it got. It started out something beautiful, but because of sin, it became corrupted, right? And we see this, the need for salvation. But this is their expectation. They want somebody to go to the flower world and bring the flowers of truth back to them. And indeed, they're even talking about this right before Cortez comes and the conquistadors come. They actually have some groups of the musicians are coming together and they're talking about philosophy. They're talking about what's the purpose of life? What's truth? What is truth, right? They're asking these questions, and they realize everything in the world seems to change. So truth must be something that is outside this world. The only thing that is really true are things that are in the flower world. So that's why the flowers of truth are so important. Who will bring us the truth to our constantly changing, inconstant world? So now Juan Diego goes to the bishop and says, hey, this lady wants a chapel built here. And he's like, I want a sign. And so he goes to Our Lady. Our Lady says, I will give the bishop a sign. Here are the flowers. Go up and pick them. And then he goes up the mountain and he finds flowers. And the way he describes them, they are glistening with dew, like jewels, exactly like the other poem. And he's so overjoyed, and he cuts them, and he brings them down, and Our Lady arranges them in his tilma. This, for him, is the most important part. He doesn't even know the image is there. It's not important, because this is the fulfillment of a 3,000-year-old prophecy that he will bring the flowers of truth from the flower world to the princes of this earth to bring them joy. And then when he finally arrives and opens his tilma to bring the joy to the world, indeed, he does. And in a way most spectacular, that then the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe is sort of the confirmation, as we heard in Zechariah, right? That you will know the Lord of hosts has sent me to you. And this spoke then to both the Aztecs as well as the Europeans at the same time, because we see here Revelation 12, but we also see the Aztec Codex very clearly in all of their language and symbology, that this is the purpose of the sun. And here's the kicker. What is over the womb of the Blessed Mother? That 4-petaled flower. So now we see very clearly the portal to the flower world is the womb of Our Lady. Therefore, become baptized, become part of the church, become a daughter or a son of the church in the womb of our Blessed Mother, and you will find the flower of truth, Jesus Christ, the way, the truth, and the life. And so we see this is so important. That's why the pagan priests, when they looked at it, they said, oh, that's the purpose of our worship. Here's the temple, not made by hands. This is the place and how we come to the flower world. And then the Christian message becomes clear. My son is Jesus Christ, who offered his life and his blood. He is the God of near and far. He will make you worthy by his blood. You do not have to sacrifice human beings anymore. The one sacrifice of the Son of God, his blood, will make you worthy. That's why it changed the culture. It spoke to them and they realized, wow, that's incredible. This is what we've been waiting for. It's the longing of our hearts for 3,000 years, and finally it's here. And Juan Diego, that one who was not a noble, he protested many times, I'm not a noble, send somebody else. The bishop doesn't believe me, send someone else, I'm not worthy. She says, do not worry, my son, I will make you worthy. Isn't that great? I think it's really tremendous, because for a long time I kind of just looked at this and I said, well, it is amazing, and like reading the Codex and like see all the stuff that the Aztecs would see, but really many natives converted before they even saw the image, because they heard the story of how Juan Diego brought the flowers back from the flower world. Make sense? See, this is important when we talk about evangelization. We have to look at every culture. Eugene has a particular culture, doesn't it? Springfield has a particular culture, doesn't it? And it's not great, but there are seeds of gospel longing in every heart, and we just have to figure out what they are. And once we do, the gospel will take root in them. So let's ask Our Lady, the star of the new evangelization, to help us today to understand what is the deepest longing of this age, so there would be another renewal in faith and a mass conversion, the likes of which we haven't seen. Our Lady of Guadalupe, pray for us.